Hi everyone, today I've been having fun with my inks and my stamps, and I'm going to show you how to make this card. It's really easy to do, it looks really funky, and it's a great way to create a background for your more unusual stamps. And I've got a little love affair with the Stampotique range of stamps, so many different and unusual stamps to use. I love this one from Magda, and I've got that lovely heart little string or little banner, which is by Daniel, I think you say it Torrente, could be wrong, but that's my best effort at pronouncing his name. So I've got two lovely little stamps to use, and I'm going to show you how I created this inky background. So as well as creating the inky background on the front of the card, I've also got a little strip going on the inside so that my inner matches my outer. So I am using two stamps by Daniel. One is the little hearts on a string, and then I've got a little set of wings which look like cobwebs, and I've got this one by Magda. I'm not sure if this is a little boy or a little girl, and I think you could really easily treat it as either. So I'm starting out with two pieces of white cardstock that measure 4.5 by 6 3/4 inches. On one of them, I'm just going to draw a line roughly at about the inch mark. It's no big deal if it is slightly larger than this or slightly thinner than this, but roughly about an inch down the left-hand side of one of the pieces of card. Now we're going to stamp first and then do our inky background after. So I'm going to start out by using an archival ink, and this is cobalt blue. Navy blue. And I'm going to first of all stamp my little character. So whether you have the particular stamps that I'm using or not, you can create this background and use similar little character stamps and create a fun arty background for them to sit on. So I'm just stamping my little character into position. And it looks quite black on camera, but it is actually navy blue. And then I want to stamp my little heart border. And then I'm going to stamp this little string of hearts across the top right hand corner. Don't forget you need to use archival ink for all of your stamping because you're going to be adding wet mediums on top of this and you don't want your ink to run. Next, you want to take a couple of post-it notes, and using the sticky side, you're going to just place them along the pencil line that you drew earlier, and then I'm just adding a few hearts at the top and the bottom of the strip. And then it's time to get inky. First thing that you want to do is mask off your little image. So I'm creating a couple of masks. The reason I'm creating a couple is because I'm going to run this as part of my card class this week. So I'm just going to stamp a few ready to sit in front of the TV and cut out. But if you're doing this at home, you only need to cut out one image. But if it's a fussy stamp like this one is, got some quite delicate areas to cut out, it might be worth doing a couple at once because you can store them with your stamp and you've got them ready next time you want a mask. So I'm going carefully around the outside of my stamp. Now you need to be careful with this one not to cut off the little arms and legs. And when you stamp your image, make sure that a portion of that image is along the sticky strip of the post-it note or in the area of the sticky strip. We're not stamping on the sticky side, we are stamping on the normal side of the post-it, but we want part of our mask to be sticky, so just make sure that part of your image overlaps that sticky area. And then once you have all the little arms and legs cut out, you're ready to peel off one of your masks. This is quite a feat in itself. Try not to pull off the hands and feet as you separate the two little images, and then just line it up exactly on top of the image that you stamped on your cardstock. I'm not going to worry too much about my hearts. So using some broken china re-inker and some mustard seed re-inker, I've created a couple of little sprays. So I've just added a little dot of the ink into some water in a spray bottle, and then I'm going to use that to spray the background of my card. So I've started out with this bingo stencil, and in between applications I'm just drying off the stencil so I don't get smudges, and I'm lightly spraying a couple of areas through the stencil and then just a couple of areas using the blue ink. And then whatever I do on my main card, I'm going to do a little bit of on the little strip that I've created down the left-hand edge of what will become the inner of the card. So 2 little bits of spraying using the mask and a couple of sprays using the blue ink. So when you're using sprays, don't forget to just dry in between applications. Now you could be using sprays that you've bought already made, but like I said, I've used my Distress re-inkers in order to make these sprays just by adding a little drop of the ink into some water and then using a spray bottle to apply it to the front of my card. So I've got some blue down, and because this is going to be a little bit more random with the spray, I'm just covering up that little area to make sure I don't make it messy with the yellow ink. Now the trick with this is to work until you're happy with how dark things are appearing on your card. And before I go on to the next step, I want to make sure that all that sprayed area is dry, and I'm using my heat gun in order to do that. You can see the heat's just lifting the mask slightly, but don't worry, you can just press it back down into place. I just want to add a little bit more blue into the mix. So once again, drying once I've added a little more of that blue. I know that it's looking a little bit green on camera, but it is a sort of turquoisey blue with a yellow spray. And they're the 2 colours that I've got on the card so far. Next I'm going to be using some paint. So I've got my Mustard Seed Distress paint. I've got my most used Tim Holtz stencil, which is Dot Fade. You can see that I don't clean it very often. And I'm just rubbing the paint through the stencil in just random little dots. First of all on the little strip. It's creating little areas of texture, and then I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the main image. So don't forget, you don't have to have the same things as I do. You can use any kind of paint that you have in your collection. You can use any combination of colours, and you can perhaps make it a little bit more feminine by using flowery stencils and flowery stamps, and using pinks and purples in the background of your card. So it really is up to you. It's just about following a few simple steps. Now while I've got my stencil out, I'm going to get my wings ready. So I just sprayed through the stencil with some of that blue ink, cleaning off the stencil, and I'm just going to let that dry before I stamp the wings on that background. Whilst I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to stamp a few little clusters of stars, little sparkles. This is a Lavinia stamp, so it's quite a magical star, and I'm just putting a few of those in the background using the cobalt blue ink. And now my background's dry, I'm just stamping 2 wings. Make sure you flip your stamp over so that you get 2 opposing wings and not 2 of the same wing, which will look very odd on either side of your little person's body. I've got a little bit of sequin waste next and some Peacock Distress ink, and I'm just using some dry foam to rub through the sequin waste, which I'm using as a stencil. So I've got some dots in my background, and you can see how I'm building up all those different textures to create an interesting and arty background. And you will see once I remove the mask that suddenly my little stamped image looks like it's sitting on top of all the inking that I've been doing. So I'm just adding the three main colours, which is peacock feathers, a little bit of the dark blue, which is chipped sapphire, and the mustard seed re-inker. So I'm just using, this looks a little bit green on camera, but it's because it's a very dark concentrated ink, and I'm just creating a few splatters of each of the colours onto that background. So whatever I do on the main card, I'm repeating on the inside card. So some yellow dots, some peacock feather dots, trying not to get it on my wings. And then last but not least, finishing off with some chipped sapphire, some of the dark blue. I'm trying to keep these a little bit sparser so that I don't overpower it with the very dark ink. And then drying everything off, ready to move on to the next step. So time for the big reveal, and there we go. It looks like I've actually stamped or cut out the little image and stuck him on the card because he's been protected by the mask while I've been adding all those inks. So I'm just going to colour in a couple of the details. I'm just using the yellow to colour in the t-shirt, and then once that's dry I will add some peacock feathers to the heart. It's worth letting things dry, so I'm just working in colours. I'm adding some of the yellow to the little hearts, and the reason I'm working in colours is so that they can dry in between and so that they don't bleed into one another. Now I'm picking up the peacock feathers for the shorts and the little heart. And there's a little detail around the edge of the t-shirt that I'm also picking up. And then adding some of that peacock feathers to the rest of the hearts. And then you can see once you have finished painting and remove those little post-it notes from the card that's going to be the inner, you've got a lovely matching painty border down the side of the card. I'm just going to add some washi tape in a similar colour. I'm just adding 3 little strips and then 1 strip down the opposite side of what will become the inner of the card. So I'm framing the inside card with a piece of navy blue cardstock that measures 4 3/4 by 7 inches. And we can attach this piece to the inside of the card. Make sure you've cleared up all your ink because I'm using a yellow card, just rubbing away that little pencil line that I made earlier. We've got a card base which is 11.5 inches by 8 inches, and then it's scored in half at 5 3/4, and I'm just centralising the inner right in the middle of the inside of the card. Then you want to carefully cut around the wings, and I'm just leaving a little tab at the piece where the wings will attach to the body. And I'm going to tuck that inside or underneath the little man by cutting a little split or slot on the side of my little stamped image. A bit like adding those little clothes to dressing up dollies way back when. I think they've come back into fashion, but in my days you used to have those little paper tabs that you used to fold over the shoulders of the little dolly that the little paper doll that you were dressing. Some of you that will, of my age group will know what I'm talking about. If you're much younger than me, then you'll have no idea whatsoever. So you can see I've just posted that little tab through a little slit that I've created with my craft knife, and then I'm just using a piece of foam in order to lift those wings slightly. Now the beauty of these wings is you can have them whichever way up you would like. I've got the long ends pointing upwards in this instance, and then I'm just attaching that card to the navy blue frame and then on to the front of the card. So all that's left is for me to add my words. Now I've printed out my words. I could have used a stamp, but I've printed them out on the computer, so I'm just cutting them into strips. It's quite a handy way to perhaps use quotes that you find on the internet just to type them out, and then I've just put them on a blue background, white text on a blue background to match my card. Now I've seen this one, it may well exist as a stamp because I have seen this on Pinterest, but I'm not sure. It could be a Stampotique stamp. I just liked the little saying. I thought it went well with this kind of card. So a fun sentiment for an alternative birthday card. So I am currently unsupervised. The possibilities are endless. And then I just added a little extension to the sentiment. Enjoy the possibilities for the greeting on the inside of the card. So don't forget, you can use whatever stamps you like on these cards, whatever colours you like on these cards, whatever stencils you happen to have, whatever little stamps that you happen to have. It's a fun way of layering up all those colours and inks and textures to create a really modern background, and I've chosen to go bright and beautiful. You could go pink, you could go boy colours. The possibilities are endless, so I hope you enjoy them. See what I did there? I'm really hoping that you think that my tutorials are a little better than my jokes, and I look forward to sharing more of them with you very soon. So if you have enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, the share button, and if you want to, leave me a comment below. I really always am inspired by the comments that you leave me. Don't always get a chance to say hi, but I do answer any questions that I might get, so don't forget, if you have any, to leave them below in the comment section. Until next time, thank you for watching. Click on this link if you want the details of the card dimensions for this card. I've listed them over on my blog just to make things a little bit easier. Alternatively, you could click on this link and watch another little project that I designed using another of Magda's lovely Stampotique stamps. Alternatively, why not try one of my tag videos and click on this link. This is a fun tag that I made as part of the Tim Holtz, I think it was the 2014 tags, and I'm popping them into my tag holder, which you can see here. So click on this link if you want to visit my Etsy shop and make a tag holder all of your own. There's lots of other projects over there, workshops that I sell for bigger items that I've designed that you might be interested in making.